For more insight on the unfolding situation in the DRC, I'm joined by Kambale Musavili. He's a national spokesperson of the advocacy group Friends of the Congo. He's also a native of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Well, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we know that the latest reports we have is that at least 20 people were killed between Monday and Tuesday during those protests. The question is, some are wondering, is this the best way, going to the streets to confront security forces?
This is a step for the Congolese population to use civil disobedience to actually put pressure on the system on the ground right now. With the Kabila staying in power beyond his constitutional term limits. You are seeing on one hand, you have the police with weapons shooting at civilians while they are simply protesting. So they have not found other radical means to actually put pressure. This has been in the core of the Congolese population for decades, that they put in that
September,
pressure.
17 people were killed, and that just went by like that. And some are saying, well, there was kind of some talks going on here. For those like you who are so far away from Kinshasa, it might be easier to tell people to go to the streets and protest. But for those who are there, these are traumatizing experiences. How long will it take to continue dying, being maimed, in order to achieve those objectives?
But I do think that this actually is the sentiment of the population to go out in the streets, because they have not seen the aspiration actually reflected in the current government. But what is the situation right now? We have a president who's been in power for 15 years, and he has had 2 presidential terms included in those 15 years. And he has actually disrespected the Congolese population. So the population, very peacefully, non-violently, are going to the street and saying, we won't change and we want you to step down at the end of the constitutional term. But the response is met by shutting off of the social media networks, of different ways of communication, and also sending the security forces. The discussion should be, how do we hold the security forces who are maiming and killing the population accountable so that we don't have much more death? Not condemning the population that is actually expressing their aspiration for a better and new Congo.
Understanding how the Democratic Republic of Congo works, and perhaps some of those countries around the Great Lakes region, do you think they're too powerful? They have so much control that the population really is helpless, despite of efforts to demonstrate on the streets.
And this goes actually along the side of the African continent as a whole. I don't believe that Congolese people can be free without the African continent to be free. So when Congolese are actually mobilizing and organizing, I was hoping, for example, for the African Union to step in and be a voice of reason around this crisis. The African Union has not played that role when it comes to the Congo's crisis. And when we look also at in the region, we're seeing constant reminder that we have leaders who do not want to leave power. When we look at Angola, we look at Burundi, we look at Rwanda and Uganda, we're seeing the same system there.
Yeah. Now, Kabila, his diplomatic advisor, just said that he doesn't want to stay in power for too long, but they've had this agreement with some opposition parties, and also the court has said there are no circumstances right to hold an election. So isn't he a bit different than those who are trying to extend their term in power indefinitely?
His situation is actually premeditated. I wish even today, even yesterday, that Kabila went on national TV to speak to the population. He has disappeared. We do not know where he is. He's not speaking to the population. In 2011, there was a social agreement that he had with the Congolese people. I'm going to be in power for 5 years, right? He has done everything in his power from that time to now not to organize elections. There were very many times that he could have done so. There is no explanation of why the election has not been organized timely, but only promises. So this is actually not even a discussion to have about why he's still in power.
Very quickly, in a few seconds. So what's the best way forward without shedding blood?
2 things. Kabila should step down, and 2, there should be a transitional government led by people who will take us to the elections. But the people expect to see some change with his disappearance in that office of the presidency.
All right. We hope you'll speak soon. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you.